you for listening to this episode of the Tucumcari, New Mexico Area News Podcast, a roundup of what's newsworthy and what's going on in the Quay County area. Like our page on Facebook and join in on the discussion at the Tucumcari, New Mexico Area News discussion page. And now, here is your host, Gordon Runyon.
Hello, and ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! This is the Tucumcari Area News Podcast for the week beginning with Monday, December the 24th. One day away. Are you counting down? I'm not really. I hope you have a good Christmas. Hope you get to spend time with friends and family, or at least people who don't drive you up a wall. Maybe that excludes friends and family for some of you, but hope it's all good. Broadcasting live tonight from the Tucumcari Area News Studio, and you may hear wind in the background, but y'all live in New Mexico, you're pretty used to that sort of thing. So here we are, let's get to it with our long-range weather forecast, also called Your Guess is as Good as Theirs. For this coming week, the high should be today, Monday, at about 68, they're predicting. And from there, it looks like it's a straight line downhill. A little bit cooler every day until we get to the low day, which is Sunday, where the high is supposed to get to 46. Christmas Day is supposed to be 64, so that'll be kind of nice, unless you get a sled from Santa or something like that. Ice skates, that probably won't work. Our highest rain chance for the week is Wednesday, where we have a 20% chance of rain as of now. We also have a slight chance of rain for most of the days this week, slight being around 10. Our verse of the day is 1 John 5:3, which says, "For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome." That's our verse of the day, our long-range forecast, and the verse brought to you from your friends and neighbors at Emmanuel Baptist Church. We sure do invite you to come and attend. Check us out, see what we're about. We've got an adult Sunday school class that starts at 9:45. Of course, we are officially Southern Baptist, and we're on Southern Baptist time, so if you want to walk in a little bit late, nobody will bat an eye. We're looking at the attributes of God in Sunday school. It's a very thought-provoking class. It's been very good for all of us. And the young man who runs it is doing a fantastic job. So we invite you to show up for that. We've also got our morning service that starts at 11 a.m. And you're certainly invited to come and join us for worship. Let me just ask you this question. I know a lot of you are members of churches, but let me ask you, is there a place where if you're not there for worship on Sunday, somebody cares? I mean, if you're not there this Sunday, will anybody wonder where you are? And if the answer is no, if the answer is yes, first, good for you, and you've got a church family that cares about you, and awesome. If the answer to that question is no, though, take advantage of that this Sunday. Come to Emmanuel Baptist Church. They won't care if you're not there. You just said they don't care. So if you're not there, they won't care. So come to Emmanuel Baptist Church and give us a shot. And here is my challenge to you. If after being there during one worship service, hearing one sermon, if you honestly don't feel like God is telling you that this is a place you need to be, then brilliant. That's fine. And, just thank you for giving us a shot. On the other hand, I think my experience has been, as a pastor there, my experience has been that Emmanuel Baptist Church is probably what you're looking for if you've been noticing for some time that you feel like you're stagnating in your spiritual life. You feel like you're starving for the Word of God. if you've begun to wonder things like, is this it? Is this all there is? And particularly if you're kind of tired of the idea that your Christianity extends no farther than the tip of your nose, and that really all it's about is just the feelings that you have in your heart toward Jesus from moment to moment. If you think it's possible that maybe the Lord Jesus intended to inaugurate something a little bit more than just your feelings, come give us a shot. See what we're talking about. See what we're strategizing. See what we're planning. That's my invitation to you. And now I'd like to take a small break and hear from my good friend Jason Sanchez at Reconstructionist Radio, our host and sponsor. We'll be right back.
The Reconstructionist Radio Podcast Network brings to you a complete lineup of podcasts where you will hear practical and tactical theology. Our desire is not simply that you consume our shows, but that you also live out your faith in every area of life. We can talk all day long about these things, but if we fail to put them into practice, then we fail as ambassadors of Jesus Christ, our King. Subscribe now to your favorite Reconstructionist Radio Podcast Network shows, or you can subscribe to the Reconstructionist Radio Master Feed, where all of the content we produce, including the audiobooks and audio articles, will pop up as soon as they are available. And don't forget to visit reconstructionistradio.com to volunteer as a narrator or to partner with this ministry financially. May the Holy Spirit stir you into action for Christ and His kingdom.
And we're back. Tucumcari area news for the week beginning Monday, December the 24th, 2018. There weren't a lot of really breaking headlines this last week, but I try to make a habit of catching people doing good. And hopefully you'll hear me say that a lot if you keep listening to this podcast. It's one thing to catch people doing bad. We kind of expect that. But I want to kind of buck the trend a little bit and catch people doing good. At the last city commission meeting that I attended, it wasn't very well attended. There wasn't anything controversial going on, so the crowd was small. But I noticed some things in that meeting that I just want to point out. Catch some people doing good. And the first one is Commissioner Todd Duplantis and the initiative that he started and that he honchoed himself as a local business owner to say thank you to veterans. And that's a cause that is obviously very near and dear to his heart. But you know what? Catch the man doing good. What he did was he had an idea. He has been the major funder for the idea. He didn't ask the government to come fund it for him. And he's enlisted a lot of help in the community. And so they're baking tons of cookies and taking them to VA hospitals and nursing homes and just brightening a lot of people's days through that. And it's just awesome to see that sort of thing going on. So he's a successful businessman in town. He obviously cares about what's going on in Tucumcari. And he's not just leading by saying, he's out there leading by doing. So good on Todd Duplantis. The other guy that I want to catch doing good is our city manager, Mr. Lusk. And he may not even know that he did this. Well, I'm sure he does. He's a bright guy. He remembers what he said, but I noticed him doing something good here. It was during the commissioner's remarks, and at the end of every city commission meeting, they have a section called Commissioner's Remarks where they go around the dais and they allow each commissioner to take a few minutes to just talk about whatever's on their mind. And one of the commissioners in this meeting was kind of talking along the lines, and I'm sure he was just kind of spitballing and talking out loud and trying to just kind of inspire people to have these sorts of conversations, and very interested in bringing increase tourist business to Tucumcari. And he was making the point that what we have that a lot of other cities don't have is we've got the Route 66 running through here, and we have a lot of old and kind of iconic places that people like to stop and take pictures of. And he was talking about how do we capitalize on that and what do we do. And one of the ideas that he just kind of spouted off the top of his head was maybe we should do something like Santa Fe does, where they have a zoning rule so that if you're going to build something, you have to build it in a particular style, and there's a small range of colors that your building can be. And you've been to Santa Fe and you've seen everything looks the same, and they do that on purpose. And maybe we here should do the same sort of thing in terms of keeping it looking nostalgic and stuff like that. Well, the city manager, Mr. Lusk, kind of answered that, and he was very, very respectful and very gentle. But here's what he said. He said, you kind of have to be careful with that sort of thing. You're on a slippery slope, and at what point are you going too far in telling property owners what they can and can't do with their own property? And the city commissioner, to his credit, he didn't take that in. He wasn't offended. He wasn't insulted. He agreed that that was a good point. He himself was a property owner. And so what did Mr. Lusk do right there? Well, he stood up for individual liberty. I'm not sure that that's part of his agenda. He may have just been talking out of a concern for how hard it would be to enforce that or to get it going or whatever. But the argument that he used in that moment made my liberty-loving heart vibrate happily, because here's a man on the dais talking about policy locally. And what is he saying? We have to let property owners do what they want with their property if they're not, being criminal about it. Man, I'm glad to have that voice on the city commission. He's not a commissioner, but he might as well be. I mean, he doesn't get a vote, but he has a great deal of influence there. And to have a man that's willing to kind of stand up for liberty, man, I was really happy to see that. So, caught those two guys doing good, Todd Duplantis and our city manager, Mr. Lusk. Good job, men. Keep it up. The other thing that I wanted to talk about has been in the news, but not locally. And the reason that I think it's okay to talk about it is because it may become local. And the way the trend is going, it almost certainly will, if things do not reverse. What I want to point out is that in Florida now, they've implemented what are called red flag laws for gun owners. And what these red flag laws do is they allow government to confiscate guns from private citizens before those citizens have done anything wrong. And so you can go to somebody's house and confiscate their gun just based on somebody like a family member calling in a tip and saying, I'm not sure my uncle is all that stable and he's got all these guns. And so it winds up being this thing where you're depriving people of their property, depriving them of self-defense rights based on crimes that they haven't committed yet, based on their potential for crimes. If you saw the movie from the 1980s, I believe, called Minority Report, this is punishing people for pre-crime, and it's extremely unconstitutional. From a biblical standpoint, this is horrific. From a biblical standpoint, as a Christian, this is completely unjust. You only punish people for actual crimes that they have committed. So Florida's got these red flag gun laws going. The state of New Jersey, in a similar way, has banned magazines for semi-automatic weapons, which contain more space than for 10 rounds. So if you've got a magazine that holds more than 10 rounds, those have been banned in New Jersey. And you're officially, if you have one there, you're a felon. A semi-automatic weapon, of course, is one that fires one round for every one pull of the trigger. Many of you, if you have guns, that's what you have, is some kind of semi-automatic, either a rifle or a pistol. And I'd be curious, anybody here have a magazine that holds less than 10 rounds? So anyway, that's been banned. And then the most astonishing thing, maybe, for some people this is astonishing, but not to toot my own horn, but some of us have been saying for a long time to expect this. Our president has made an executive order which seeks to ban what are called bump stocks. I don't own a bump stock, but my understanding, doing a little bit of reading on it, is that a bump stock simply is an accessory that you can attach to your rifle, your semi-automatic rifle, that will make it easier for you to pull the trigger faster. It doesn't turn the weapon into a machine gun. It just makes it easier to pull the trigger faster. So it's still one round fired through the barrel for every one pull of the trigger. So you're not firing 3 rounds per pull, and it doesn't turn your weapon into an automatic machine gun sort of thing. So I don't know how that will do in the courts or anything like that, but President Trump wants to see that banned. My only observation on this, well, actually, I have a lot, but my observation on this that's pertinent is I can't believe conservatives are standing for this. It boggles my mind that Tea Party types and strong Second Amendment organizations are not literally out in the streets like they were in France. I'm astonished. I guess I shouldn't be, because the current president has an R by his name instead of a D, but I don't think there's any doubt that if President Obama had made the same executive order, you'd have people out in the streets right now with their guns, and maybe already shots fired. Now, in New Jersey, with the 10-round magazine ban, and now with the bump stock ban, the state police in New Jersey, the state attorney general, has said that a house-to-house search by police for these banned magazines is not off the table. That's it. That is, he's not ruling that out. That could be one of the tools they use, is to go door to door. Good luck with that. Maybe it's dumb of me, but I still hold out hope that there are patriots, even in places like New Jersey, who would simply not put up with that. But my question for us in Tucumcari, none of these things have really touched us yet. If the bump stock ban goes through, it will apply to us. But here's a question that I want to ask you. Gun owners in Quay County, what will you do when that comes here, or something like that? And what will you do if it does come down to local police officers, people that you live next to, you know their names, you're friends with them? What will you do when they're the ones showing up at your door demanding to search your premises for these banned items? And I'm not asking for some kind of macho answer about, yeah, I'll give it to them bullets first. That's not what I'm asking for. But this is something that we need to be thinking about. A lot of people have deluded themselves into thinking our local police officers are different. They wouldn't put up with that. They wouldn't do that. And I hope that's true. I'm friends with some police officers here locally, and I like to think about them that they would never comply with that kind of order. But recently in the United States, that hasn't been demonstrated by police officers. Instead, the motto of most police in the United States these days is, I didn't make the law, I just have to do what it says. I just have to enforce it. I'm just doing what I'm told. So what will you do when that comes to Quay County? What will you do when they're standing on your porch? Now, that's kind of a scary scenario in my mind. But I would like to talk about, is there a way to be proactive about this here and now? And I think there is. And the proactive thing to do now is for the Tucumcari City Commission, for the local governments in other smaller towns like Logan and San Juan and House. You need to come up with something now locally. Even a resolution saying something like, no federal infringement of Second Amendment rights will be allowed within the boundaries of this village or this city, and we will not allow, as the local government, we will not allow agents from the federal or state government to come in here and begin to enforce unconstitutional gun laws. Do we have anybody with enough spine to make that kind of resolution? Well, we need those people. I hope that you will talk to the commissioners that you know and begin to ask them about this. And I want to point out that within the Bible, there is a doctrine that is plainly taught that we don't speak much about. I'm guessing you have probably never heard about it from the pulpit of your church. If you have heard about it from your pulpit, you are blessed because you are being taught things that nobody else is being taught. Your pastor cares about you. If you have heard this before, your pastor cares, and he's not scared of consequences. If you haven't heard this before, I would challenge you to begin to ask why you haven't heard this before. But the Bible plainly teaches a doctrine that's called the doctrine of the lesser magistrates. You can look up on Amazon and actually find a book by that name, and I recommend the book to you, The Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrates. What this doctrine says, and we're using magistrate in the sense of a government official, just a generic government official. The doctrine of the lesser magistrate says that when somebody higher up in the government makes an unjust law or a law that will damage citizens, it is both the right and the duty of the lesser magistrates, that is, those who are underneath the higher ones and probably closer to the people, it's the right and duty of the lesser magistrates to oppose and resist those unjust laws for the sake of protecting his citizens, his or her citizens. And it works the other way too. A lesser magistrate who begins to act unjustly should be brought to heel by higher magistrates. And so the doctrine, the idea is, doesn't matter where you are in the government, if you see injustice taking place and unjust laws being made and citizens being damaged by law, you have to stand up. You have a duty, a right, and responsibility before God to protect your people. I like to believe that we have people in this county who will do that. I like to believe that our sheriff, Mr. Schaefer, I like to believe that he would do that. And I don't think that's a pie in the sky belief. From what I've heard him say, I have hope that he would try to stand in the gap and protect the citizens of Quay County. But if you're friends with him and you see him around, you need to ask him about that. What if the feds come and want to do door-to-door gun control in Quay County? What would you, as the magistrate over Quay County, what would you do? And his answer needs to be, I will protect the people of Quay County. These are awesome things to think about. They're awesome things to find as you're reading through the Bible, especially in the Old Testament. You're going to find many instances of this doctrine. So look up that book if that's a new thought to you. The Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrates. It's worth your time. That's all I've got for you today. I hope your Christmas was good, or will be good, depending on when you're listening to this. Enjoy being around your family. Remember Jesus Christ. Not just the reason for the season, but the reason for everything. Without him, we have nothing. God bless y'all. Until next time, I'm Gordon Runner.
We hope this episode of the Tucumcari, New Mexico Area News has been a blessing to you. Remember to like our page on Facebook to stay current on what's happening in Quay County. We are honored to be a part of the Reconstructionist Radio Podcast Network. Either Christ is Lord of all, or he's not Lord at all.